Hello, my name is John Long, and this is a demo video for a web application that I built called MTG Hydra. This application represents my final project at Actualize Coding Bootcamp. Before I dive in any further here, I would like to quickly mention the tools that I use in the application. The backend is managed by Rails with a Postgres database, and the front end HTML and CSS is structured by a VueJS's framework. This is therefore what's known as a single page application, so everything lives in the same HTML page. So, my app, MTG Hydra. The MTG in the title here stands for Magic the Gathering, which is a trading card game that's been around for about 25 years. If you want to learn more about it, go ahead and Google Magic the Gathering real quick. You'll find just a ton of information about it. But if you haven't heard of it, you can think of Magic as sort of a combination of like Pokemon cards for adults as well as chess, in that most games of Magic are played in a 1 versus 1 against an opponent, and there's a lot of strategy involved, etc. So this application was designed for Magic players, so some of the stuff might not make perfect sense to you, but I will do my best to explain everything as cleanly as possible. So this is the homepage for my application. If you went to the website, this is where you would land. You notice the title here, MTG Hydra, as well as a few options up top in the nav bar that I will go through. And yeah, if you scroll down on the main page here, you get a little bit more detail about what the application is about. So this is cool for someone who's perhaps new to the application, but not new to Magic the Gathering. So for demo purposes here, we're going to pretend that I am a user who is already logged into the application and who has built a few decks already. In Magic, it's very common to pre-construct decks or build decks online so that you can test it out against sort of fake opponents or real opponents, what have you. Making decks online is an incredibly useful tool. So what I just did is went to my decks homepage here on my nav bar. So yeah, some cool styling going on here. I have each card here, each individual card is actually representing a whole deck, so when I click on one of these cards later, I'm going to jump into that deck's particular page. But if I hover over the card, I can get the deck's title. For this one, it's Mono Red Burn. The deck's format. This is relevant to a Magic player, so this deck's format is modern. And then a brief description about the deck that you would have created when you made the deck, so that's useful to the owner. On this page, you can also sort your decks, so I could check out just my standard decks here, or just my modern decks. And you can see JavaScript's doing some neat responsive design there. Everything's happening super fast. So let's say I wanted to further look at one of the decks I created. For this demo, I'm going to take a look at a couple decks, but first is this Merfolk deck that this user has created. So when I jump to the page here, this is the Merfolk deck page. This is a totally legal Magic deck to this day. This deck has 60 cards in it. I made it myself. The deck lives in my database, but is rendering on this page. This is a HTML table over here, and I'm happy to say that I constructed this whole table from scratch. This table separates the deck between its creatures, spells, and land. This is all relevant information to a Magic player. I have the quantity of each card in the deck over here on the left-hand side, the name of the card in the middle, and then the mana cost, which is also relevant to Magic players, over on the right. If you hover over the name of the card, you will see that the card fades in over there to the right. So I could take a look at this information on Merfolk Mistbinder by just hovering over it. And similarly for all of the other cards. So yeah, you can see you can actually get a look at really your whole deck just by hovering over the cards, as well as kind of analyzing this table. I wanted to point out that each little symbol here, these are the mana symbols, are unique to a particular card. So you'll notice that this Merfolk Mistbinder, when I hover over it, in the top right-hand side of the card, it has the same mana symbols as what is to the right of the card over here. I am actually doing quite a bit of logic work under the hood to assign these mana symbols to the correct cards, because each mana symbol is actually a unique image. So I just wanted to point that out, that just getting logic of this table to work was maybe a little bit more complicated than it would look like. And if this viewing this table this way isn't cool enough for you, I created this card flow feature, which if I click on, this mimics iTunes cover flow, so how you could kind of sort through your albums on your iPod, or, well, people don't even use iPods anymore, your phone. Yeah, you can do this on the website as well with this card flow. So I can get another cool way to look at my deck and get all the relevant information about the cards. Also, what I put on the deck page are two other categories here, the card breakdown and mana curve. If I click on the card breakdown, this gives me a visual way to see sort of the makeup of the deck, and this is super useful as a Magic player to kind of get a quick visual understanding of what the deck is about. I constructed this pie chart using HighCharts' pre-constructed JavaScript and CSS tools, but this is pulling in information from my database and applying it to the pie chart here. So you can see this deck is a large amount of creatures and lands with a few spells. If you click on it, these can pop out. So yeah, pretty cool. This is totally unique to this deck. So a different deck will have a different card breakdown, which I will look at in a second. Additionally, I have a mana curve built in here. This is also super useful to a Magic player. I can already tell briefly by looking at this graph here, there's quite a bit more 1s and 2s than there are 3s and 4s. In Magic, this is what's known as a low curve aggressive deck. This player is trying to beat their opponent quickly, and just by glancing at this mana curve thing, you can kind of get an idea of what your deck is trying to do. So I'm going to hop into one of our other decks here that I've created. Let's go take a look at this one, which is known as my Grixis mid-range deck. This is just another constructed deck. It's got all the same tools as the last one. But I just want to highlight here that the card breakdown and mana curve is unique for each deck. So this one focuses more on spells versus creatures and lands. And the mana curve has higher costing cards, quite a bit of the 4s, less early plays, and more late things to do. This deck is trying to slow down their opponent and win the long attrition game. So yeah, this is kind of the main features of my decks viewing page. Like I said, this is important information to a Magic player. Creating decks is something that Magic players do all the time. But if you need more ideas for your next deck that you're going to create, there are almost 20,000 Magic cards in total in Magic the Gathering's 25-year library history of cards that they've made. So looking up an old card or a brand new card is something that also, as a Magic player, you need to do all the time. So I've implemented this card search feature so that when I type in the name of a card, I have some in front of me here. Let's say Abzan Guide. And you hit the search button. That will load in a card that is a real Magic card. What this is doing is making an API call to Magic the Gathering API. And all I have to do is give it the title, and it can give me the rest of the information about the card. I'm putting some of the relevant information down below, as well as, once again, the image to the right. As a Magic player, seeing the image of the card can give you most of the information you would want to know about the card. And this works with really any card in Magic's history. So I could type in another and hit search. And I also want to mention, check out the little VueJS animation here I'm doing with the card image when I hit search. Just some cool little transition. This could be sort of expanded or totally taken out if needed, but I just wanted to try and use a few of VueJS's awesome tools that they have behind the scenes. And additionally, if searching for the card by title isn't cool enough for you, I have installed my pièce de résistance, which is the camera feature to search for cards. So, hi viewer, I can also, if I want to, hold the card up to the camera. And I'm only going to try and capture the title of the card. I'm actually going to get a different one. We already have that one loaded up here. All I have to do is capture the title of the card. When I hit capture image, I'm going to take a picture of the image that I have here on the webcam, and I'm sending that picture to Microsoft's API on their Azure platform. They have an API that is for optical character recognition, or OCR. It's going to take the image that I give it, read any text on the image, and send that text back to me as a response. So if I take a picture of this, let's see if we can get it to work on the first try. Awesome. So I took a picture, Microsoft read the words, which is Nimbus Maze along the top over here, and then it sent back a response with the title in it, Nimbus Maze, and then I take that title, send it to my Magic the Gathering API, and then I can get all the information about the card. This theoretically works for, once again, any card. So I could hold up another card here. Check out how fast and responsive this is. This is awesome if it works on the first try. Sometimes we're a little touchy here on where the card has to be, but there we go. Try number 2, and it worked. So yeah, this is a pretty awesome feature. I'm going to turn off the camera here. This was really the most difficult thing for me to put into my app. There's quite a bit of work going on under the hood. I have to actually turn the image into a string to send that to Microsoft, because sending images across the internet is something that's not really possible. So we have to break down the data so that the API can accept the image. And then once I get the response back, I have to then hit my magic API with the title to get the rest of the information. So I spent quite a time working on this card search feature, but I feel really glad about the way that worked out. In the future, I think it would be really cool to hover images over it or do something else, but for now, this is pretty awesome, so I'm excited about that. You'll see there's also a couple other, let me actually turn this back to the black here. There's also a couple other options on my nav bar here. These are features that I want to implement later, but I didn't work out all the bugs and kinks, so I don't want to demo these any further. But I wanted this application to be a team application for a Magic player so that they can join either friends from their local game store or just friends from their real life scenario, their surroundings, neighborhood, etc. And then they can share deck lists with their friends so that people can comment on each other's decks and kind of share ideas. That was the whole initial goal of the app. But I wanted this deck creation and card search feature really to be working smoothly, and I wanted the website to look good, so that's where I put my time into this demo. So what I'm trying to get at here is maybe for my future versions, or if I ever wanted to make this website live, I would want to continue to work on my teams and game tools feature so that someone can really have some extra utility out of this application. Anyway, that is the gist of my application, MTG Hydra. I wanted to thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email.